Hey guys, the Fire Brothers here. It's just me, and before we begin, I have an important announcement. I, the Fire Brothers, am gay. And not only that, J.K. Rowling also said that not only am I gay, but Optimus Prime is gay, and so is Ironhide, and Bumblebee, and RC, and Knockout, and I guess the last one was already, gay. Not only that, but because of Pride Week, J.K. Rowling also said that Hound, Ratchet, Wheeljack, and Bumblebee are also black, and you never knew it. I know. Shock! Gasp! So yeah, that's basically Pride Week in a nutshell. Did you also knew that Solar 76 was gay? Yeah, me neither, because they had to announce it over Twitter. The source of all evil. But anyways, these are the jokes. If you took it seriously, then I don't know what to tell you. It's just a prank, bro. But anyways, today I'm just doing part 3 to the old characters that didn't make it onto Transformers Prime. I'm also gonna be going over characters that appear in the games, but they didn't make it onto Transformers Prime because I don't know how to tell you this, but quite a lot of characters from the Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron cast basically died off screen in comics, novels, and so on. So I'm guessing that this will be a good episode to reveal what happened to the Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron cast. At least for the most part, quite a few of them died, and in this video we're gonna go over all of that. Also, my last 2 videos talking about this subject did surprisingly well. The second video is not doing as good as the first one, but that doesn't matter, it's still doing pretty well, so I don't really care. It's only the first day and it's already making this amount of views, so yeah, I'm pretty happy. In this video, I'm just gonna be finishing the Transformers Universe cast, some of the comics, and some of the aligned novels, so after that, I think I'm gonna finish up some of the toy line characters, and I think we should be done by then. We're definitely not gonna finish by this episode, because there's still so many other characters we won't be able to cover. So I'll do my best to get us as far as we can get. Well, you all know the drill. Sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, grab some soda, grab your Transformers toy, grab your pillow waifu or your pillow husbando, and just sit back, relax, and enjoy this video talking about cancel the missing Transformers from Transformers Prime Part 3. This is gonna be so painful to edit. First off, we start with Decepticon Kickback. Despite surviving the events of Fall of Cybertron, he remained behind on Cybertron and eventually made it to the Cybertron Underground in search for more energon. At some point, he started terrorizing the Autobot settlements that had been developed underground. That is, until the Dinobots found him, they engaged into a fierce battle and basically managed to subdue and capture Kickback. However, after capturing the 2 Decepticons, Sludge executed him anyways, justifying himself by saying that if they let Kickback live, he will most likely commit more atrocities against other Autobots, so his status is killed in action. Next up, we have Decepticon Slipstream. Now, Slipstream actually joined Megatron and the rest of the Decepticons on the Nemesis after Fall of Cybertron. She chased the Autobots with the other Decepticons through space. At some point, Slipstream engaged into a battle against Prime and his Autobots. However, this was a distraction as Megatron managed to learn the location of the Allspark. He prepared the Nemesis for departure, but Starscream remarked that Slipstream had not returned to the ship yet and she had suffered major injuries during the battle. Megatron merely shrugged, and he and the Decepticons left, apparently leaving Slipstream on the planet Junkion as the planet was tearing itself apart. It's not made clear if she died or if she survived, but her current status is missing in action. Next up, we have Decepticon Thundercracker. So much like Skywarp, he was captured by the Quintessons at some point after the Ark and the Nemesis had left Cybertron. He was pronounced innocent by the Quintessons, but he was executed anyways. He was thrown to the Sharkticons and was slowly eaten alive as he begged for help. His status is killed in action. Next up, we have Decepticon Blackout. Blackout served alongside the Decepticons for the majority of the War for Cybertron. After the planet died, Blackout was one of the many Decepticons who went underground looking for more energon, as the surface of the planet became more inhospitable. When the Autobots revitalized the planet, it caused the Cybertron underground to become unstable. Blackout was caught by one of these cave-ins, and he was severely damaged. He was found by Sludge and Slug, who took pity on the Decepticon and tried to heal him and save his life. Because of his injuries, Slug sent Sludge ahead to bring help. In the meantime, Slug remained with Blackout. Blackout wondered if the war going on so long was a punishment from Primus himself, to which Slug responded by saying that Primus probably has better things to worry about. Slug and Blackout then waited for Sludge to return. However, the wait proved to be way too long for Blackout, and he expired from his injuries. His body was left behind as the cave collapsed. Scrounge was an Autobot who lived in the settlement that was controlled by Grimlock and the other Dinobots. When the Autobots revitalized the planet, it caused the Cybertron underground to become unstable. Shortly thereafter, he was crushed by a pile of rubble and pronounced deceased later. Autobot Elita-One is kind of a weird one over here, because although she was blacklisted by the High Council, in Transformers Prime, for the episode Stronger, Faster, there was a line during the scene where Ratchet berates Optimus for his perceived inaction against Megatron. The scene was originally supposed to imply that Elita had died during the war for Cybertron and he blamed Optimus for it. This would have led to Optimus Prime actually punching Ratchet. But the scene was cut because the story editor did not want Optimus Prime to lose his cool during this scene. Whether we can take this deleted scene as canon or not, it's kinda tricky, but I'm still gonna list Elita-One as killed in action, because the story editor said that bringing up Elita-One's death would have caused Optimus Prime to lose his cool. That's the only reason why that scene was cut. It wasn't cut because Elita-One isn't really dead or anything. As far as we know, Elita-One was killed during the war for Cybertron, and presumably by Megatron himself. I'm gonna classify Devastator and the Constructicons here because it's gonna make sense in a minute. So the Constructicons accompany Megatron aboard the Nemesis in pursuit of the Autobots. Eventually they will come into conflict with the Quintessons and their Sharkticons. The Constructicons will combine into Devastator, and they will engage into a fight against the Sharkticon General. During the fight, the Sharkticon Admiral lured Devastator into a location of his choosing. He has set up explosives and then he detonated them once Devastator was close enough. The result was a massive explosion which collapsed a building that was on top of the Combiner. Once the building fell on top of Devastator, he was rendered unconscious and he separated into his individual components. All of them which will end up being buried by all the rubble caused by the building collapsing, leaving them unable to fight. Their current whereabouts after this is unknown, but they did survive this encounter. Decepticon Mismatch was a Decepticon that served aboard the crew of the Leviathan. He fought against the Autobots during the early Decepticon invasion. He was feared amongst the Autobots because in battle, he will basically tear apart his opponents and use their parts to improve his weaponry, his armor, and himself. He was basically a Decepticon Frankenstein, taking the parts from the dead for himself to enhance his capabilities. This made him one of the most feared Decepticons during the conflict. Autobot Anomaly is a strange case. He was a young Autobot, but besides being a warrior, he was also a scientist who managed to weaponize radiation and a lot of other unsavory chemicals which will damage a Transformer. He was feared by the Decepticons because there was almost no counter to his radiation and biochemical weaponry. Apparently Pandemic seemed to like him quite a bit because of this. I wonder why. But sadly, much like the rest of the Transformers Universe cast, he was killed by Hasbro. I go more in depth about this in part 2. You can go and check it out in case you are wondering why he got killed by Hasbro. Decepticon Astrea was a female Decepticon that served alongside the crew of the Leviathan. She was well known for her ability to rain down punishment onto the Autobots. She specialized on the use of rocket launchers, heavy grenade launchers, and mines. Practically, she was the explosive expert of the crew of the Leviathan. Her weaponry allowed her to bombard the Autobots with heavy fire, all the while being miles and miles away from their current location, making her one of the most deadly Decepticons to go up against. Autobot Catapult was a female Autobot that served alongside the crew of the Arclight. She fought against the early Decepticon invasion alongside her fellow teammates. She was also remarked by Prowl to be the best shot the Autobots had at their disposal. Using her sniper rifle, she became a deadly opponent to go up against, and she rarely missed a shot. However, since Transformers Universe got cancelled by Hasbro, we're most likely never gonna see this fembot again. At some point after Fall of Cybertron, the Quintessons invaded Cybertron. Omega Supreme was one of the first Cybertronians to respond against the Quintesson Armada. Omega Supreme fought valiantly, bringing his heavy weaponry to bear and destroying countless Constructicon ships. Unfortunately, the Constructicon general clambered up Omega Supreme and speared him to the head, taking him out of the fight. Whether this killed him or not, it's not made clear. Omega Supreme, by the time of Robot in Disguise, will be blacklisted by the High Council. Whether he survived his encounter against the Constructicon general is not made clear, but after that fight, we don't have any other piece of information about Omega Supreme's ultimate fate. After the events of Follow Cybertron, Decepticon Blastoff led a team of Decepticons to destroy the Autobot ships, evacuating the planet. During the fight, the Dinobots joined the fray and they turned the tide of the battle in the Autobots' favor. Blastoff was about to leave, but he was stabbed through his chest by Grimlock's sword, supposedly killing him. Because I mean, it went right through his spark, guys. I don't think he's gonna survive that one. So Blastoff ended up dying and falling prey to Grimlock, leaving him as killed in action. Buzzsaw was a Decepticon who was part of Soundwave's loyal minions. His whole gimmick is basically that he likes carving the bodies of dead Autobots into creepy sculptures. I don't judge, man. You do you. You do you. Unfortunately, we don't know he's alive or not because besides his toy bio, there's not much information about this guy. So he will be listed as missing in action. Ratbat, current status MIA. Shortly after the Quintesson invasion of Cybertron, Ratbat participated in the defense of Cybertron during the Quintesson invasion. This happened after Fall of Cybertron, by the way. However, after witnessing Omega Supreme being taken out and realizing that the Decepticons are currently on a disadvantage, Ratbat tracked the Constructicon general, and all the while pleading for his life and betraying the Decepticons. After that, Ratbat led the Constructicon general to Shockwave's archives, where the remaining Cybertronian leaders were trying to orchestrate a resistance against the Constructicons' takeover. But to cut a long story short, eventually the Constructicons were defeated and repelled from Cybertron, and the Constructicon general and Ratbat were hunted down. Ratbat will later be abandoned by the Constructicon general, and he was forced to fend for himself. Left with no allies, it is unclear what Ratbat chose to do next. After this, there is no more information about Ratbat, so he will be listed as MIA. Onslaught was one of the Combaticons that remained behind on Cybertron to fight against the Wreckers and help Shockwave maintain control of the planet. At some point he was supposed to make an appearance in the game Transformers Universe, which means that he was supposed to take part in the events before Transformers Prime. However, the game was cancelled and Onslaught's current whereabouts are unknown. Decepticon Brawl also remained behind on Cybertron to help Shockwave maintain control of the planet. However, much like Onslaught, Brawl will make it to Earth by the events of Transformers Universe and help the Decepticons in their early invasion and fight against the Autobots that were part of the crew of the Arclight. But much like Onslaught, the game was cancelled and his current whereabouts after this is unknown. Much like the other Combaticons, Vortex remained behind on Cybertron to help Shockwave maintain control of the planet and to fight against the Wreckers. However, there's no more information about him after these events. His current whereabouts are unknown. Swindle was part of the Combaticons, and after the events of Follow Cybertron, he will also make it to Earth. He will supply Megatron's armada with weapons and ammunition. But sadly, Transformers Universe was cancelled, and after this, his current whereabouts are unknown. After the events of Follow Cybertron, Bruticus remained behind on Cybertron to engage into battles against the Wreckers, presumably Ruination and a bunch of others. However, the reason why I'm gonna list Bruticus as killed in action is because Blastoff is sort of dead. So that means that Bruticus is uncombinable, at least until they get someone else to replace Blastoff. But yeah, I'm sorry Bruticus fans, but Bruticus is currently K.I.A. That he was a Decepticon that was obsessed with racing. He was one of the fastest Decepticons around, and also one of the deadliest. Apparently he was good friends with Brawl. Current whereabouts after Transformers Universe is unknown. Autobot Frontline, much like his name suggests, was an Autobot that could almost always be found in the front lines. He was good friends with Bulkhead, and served in many battles alongside the Autobots against the Decepticons' early invasion of Earth. His current whereabouts after this is unknown. Autobot Silverbolt was an Autobot that served alongside the crew of the Ark. He accompanied the Autobots throughout their journey to space, and at one point, him and his fellow Aerialbots managed to combine into the Combiner Superion. Because of this new ability that they managed to unlock, the Aerialbots managed to turn the tide of the battle against the Decepticons and help the Ark escape to safety. His current whereabouts after this are unknown. Autobot Sideswipe was an Autobot that was part of the crew of the Ark. After the Ark and the Nemesis escaped to the wormhole, he engaged on many battles against the Decepticons in order to help the Ark escape. However, his help was not needed once Superior appeared into the battlefield and helped the Autobots escape. He will remain with Optimus Prime and what remains of the Ark in their search for the Allspark through space. His current whereabouts after this are unknown. Oh, and by the way, the Sideswipe from Transformers Robots in Disguise, completely different Sideswipe. I know, it's very confusing. Perceptor was one of the Autobots that were aboard the Ark during the events of Fall of Cybertron. He managed to survive the Autobots and Decepticons fight through space shortly after the space bridge closed. We do know, however, that he survived all the way to the events of Robots in Disguise, where he will end up being blacklisted by the High Council. Autobot Firefly was part of the Aerialbots. During the fight between the Autobots and Decepticons, Firefly and the other Aerialbots combined into Superior, turning the tide of the battlefield and allowing the Autobots to escape. After this, his current whereabouts are unknown. Autobot Skydive was again part of the Aerialbots, and he was part of the initial Autobot counterattack against the crew of the Nemesis, shortly after both ships had crossed to the space bridge. At some point, him and his fellow Aerialbots will merge into Superion, turning the tide of the battle. His current whereabouts after this event are unknown. Again, much like the previous Aerialbots, Slingshot was part of the Autobot counteroffensive against the Decepticons. Him and the other Aerialbots will merge into Superion and turn the tide of the battle. However, information about this guy after these events doesn't exist, so he will be listed as MIA. The Forge was a group of fanatics who served Shockwave. They were created shortly after Megatron and Optimus Prime left Cybertron in the Ark and the Nemesis respectively. Besides serving Shockwave loyally, the Forge will terrorize the remaining Cybertronian population by capturing civilians and brainwashing them. By performing a very painful lobotomy process on them, the Forge will engage into many fights against Grimlock and his Dinobots, as well as the remaining Autobot civilians. However, once Optimus Prime's Autobots managed to revitalize Cybertron, the Forge came out of hiding and engaged into a final stand against the Dinobots and Optimus Prime's forces. And the Forge as a faction was destroyed in this battle, so they will all be listed as K.I.A. Firestar was an Autobot that was left behind on Cybertron. She enlisted the help of the Dinobots to protect her settlement from the Insecticons, the Forge, and Predacons that were lurking around Cybertron. Once the Autobots revitalized the planet, she led many of the Autobot civilians back to the surface, where together they will begin rebuilding their cities. After this, she survived all the way to the events of Robots in Disguise, where she will be blacklisted by the High Council. Superion was the combiner form of Autobots, Silverbolt, Air Raid, Firefly, Skydive, and Slingshot. He's the sole reason why the Autobots managed to survive their encounter against the Decepticons, and it's because of his bravery that they managed to live to fight another day. His current whereabouts after this fight are unknown. Ser-Ket, oh my god, that name. What's with the Predacons having these weird names? Hungar, Ser-Ket, Backbite, Shockwave, you need to do something about that. Ser-Ket was the leader of the Forge. During the Forge's early encounters against the Dinobots, she managed to capture Swoop and tried to brainwash him. Predictably, the other Dinobots came to rescue Swoop. She engaged into a 1v1 fight against Grimlock, and the fight was brutal, nearly killing Grimlock. However, Grimlock managed to get the upper hand, and he managed to ram his blade through her head, killing her. After the Dinobots left with Swoop, Shockwave will arrive to the scene where the battlefield took place. Shockwave took her death with as much emotion as expected, commenting that she overestimated her role in his grand plan. And yeah guys, that's it for part 3. We are not even close to done. Oh my god. And this video so far is 39 minutes long. I have no idea how I'm gonna edit all of this down, but I'll see. It's gonna be a pain, but hey, if you guys enjoy it, then it's all worth it, you know, it doesn't matter. And besides, it's kind of enjoyable talking about something that's not movie related. And also the payoff on all of this is gonna be amazing. Entertaining you guys is amazing. Yes, that is what I meant, obviously. In the comments down below, I want you to tell me if I missed any characters. I probably did, and I'm gonna go over them in part 4. So feel free to mention them. They could be from War for Cybertron, Follow Cybertron, or the Prime TV show. But I'm not gonna go over Robots in Disguise, Rescue Bot Academy, or the Rescue Bots themselves, because I don't think anyone is too interested on those shows in particularly. So yeah, I'm gonna end it right here because I have a lot of stuff to do. And also, how do you feel about some of these characters dying? Like, I know Thundercracker, Slipstream, and Omega Supreme are pretty popular characters and they have a bit of a fan base behind them. What are your thoughts on them dying the way they did? They kind of died in a very, I don't know, underwhelming way if you ask me. So yeah, just let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments down below. That's it for this video, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe, you know, the usual stuff. And I'll see you guys in part 4. And remember, Cybertron basically got taken over by a bunch of sharks. I don't know if that's impressive or stupid.